In the quiet of a dimly lit room, a young man's world revolved around his laptop and the digital victories of a game he could not put down. Messages from a friend named Aisha pulled him deeper into obsession, blurring the line between reality and the world he controlled on screen. What began as innocent connections slowly grew into fixation, sowing the seeds of a shocking tragedy that was waiting to unfold.
Welcome to The Silent Witness.
Umar Sheikh's life revolved around the glowing screen of his laptop. Hours melted into nights as he pursued virtual victories, each kill and when feeding a sense of power that reality had denied him. Friends and family saw a quiet, diligent student, but beneath the surface, an obsession was growing. Every message, every online interaction, every ranking became a thread in a web of control he was slowly weaving, a web that would soon stretch far beyond the digital world into irreversible real-life consequences. The messages between Umar and Aisha started innocently, casual greetings evolving into long, intimate conversations. They shared thoughts, dreams, and personal vulnerabilities, unaware that the connection was feeding a deeper obsession. For Umar, each reply was validation, each delay a source of anxiety. These digital interactions, seemingly harmless, became the foundation for a relationship built on control rather than trust, setting the stage for a collision between virtual attachment and real-world consequence. Umar's visit to Gujranwala marked a turning point. Though it seemed casual to observers, the trip carried an undercurrent of silent planning. Each movement, each glance, was carefully measured in his mind. This meeting with Aisha was not just an encounter. It was an opportunity to control, to assert, and to ensure that the relationship followed the path he had envisioned. What unfolded that day would later reveal the dangerous intersection of obsession, expectation, and premeditation. As weeks passed, Umar's life outside the screen diminished. Family noticed his withdrawal, the skipped meals, the silent walks through the house. Each sign of detachment was a symptom of a mind becoming increasingly consumed by obsession. Alone with his thoughts and digital victories, he began justifying his growing control over Aisha, rationalizing that her hesitation or independence was a betrayal he could not forgive. The stage was quietly being set for a tragic confrontation. The digital world became Umar's sanctuary, a place where victories mattered more than relationships, where control was measurable and predictable. Each kill in the game reinforced a sense of power that reality denied him. Yet this mastery in the virtual space began to bleed into his perception of human interaction, subtly altering his morality. Obsession was no longer confined to pixels. It was becoming a blueprint for real-life manipulation and, ultimately, violence. Aisha began creating distance, unsure of Umar's intensity and increasingly uncomfortable with the pressure. Her restraint, meant to protect herself, only fueled his growing anxiety and sense of betrayal. For Umar, every pause, every unanswered message, was a crack in the fragile illusion of control he had built. These moments, small in isolation, would compound, feeding a narrative in his mind that justification could only be achieved through domination, not dialogue. In the days leading to the fateful meeting, Umar's actions became increasingly deliberate. Purchases, routes, timing, every detail was considered and calculated. He framed it as a final resolution, a chance to impose order on a relationship he believed was slipping from his control. The meticulousness of his preparation revealed a chilling shift from obsession to premeditation, turning anticipation into a dangerous blueprint for what was about to unfold. The park, quiet and unsuspecting, would become the stage for a tragedy. On the surface, it was a peaceful public space. But beneath that calm, a young woman's trust and a young man's obsession were about to collide. Every step Umar took to prepare for this encounter, from his calculated arrival to his observation of the surroundings, was a prelude to an irreversible act. The serenity of the scene concealed the darkness lurking in human intent. The final messages sent on the morning of March 18th carried more than words. They carried expectation, pressure, and subtle manipulation. Each sentence Umar typed reinforced his control. Each delay in Aisha's response inflamed his obsession. For an outsider, they might seem normal, casual, even mundane. But for Umar, these interactions were the culmination of weeks of planning, the digital overture to a real-world consequence that neither could have imagined. When Umar arrived, he appeared calm to any observer. But beneath the composed exterior lay a mind consumed by preparation and anticipation. Every movement had been rehearsed, every possible outcome calculated. The quiet of the park amplified the tension, making each footstep, each glance, a part of the unfolding narrative. What seemed like an ordinary morning would, in moments, become the turning point where obsession collided with reality, leaving consequences that could never be undone. The morning of March 18th would mark the irreversible turning point in both their lives. Aisha, unaware of the danger, accepted a bottle of water from Umar, trusting the familiarity of their digital relationship. Every minute before this encounter had been carefully orchestrated. His movements, the timing, the routes, and the calculated preparation for her incapacitation. What unfolded in those quiet moments transformed an ordinary meeting into a tragedy. The air was thick with tension, the park silent except for distant birds. Aisha's natural caution was no match for Umar's meticulous planning. In his mind, he believed he was correcting a perceived betrayal, enforcing control over a relationship he thought slipping from his grasp. The trust she placed in him became a tool for manipulation, a chilling reminder of how obsession can weaponize innocence, turning simple gestures into acts with permanent consequences. The forensic laboratory became a silent theater of revelation. The small bottle, innocuous at first glance, held the key to unraveling the premeditation behind the crime. Toxicologists meticulously documented the composition of the sedative, calculating the exact dosage required to render an adult unconscious within minutes. Each pill, each trace was evidence of deliberate intent, a chilling indicator of planning and moral detachment. Investigators reconstructed the process, from online research to procurement, revealing a timeline that highlighted Umar's obsessive control over every variable. The bottle was more than chemical. It was a symbol of manipulation, a tangible manifestation of a mind that had turned obsession into lethal action. Every fingerprint, every residue was catalogued, establishing that this act was no accident, no impulsive reaction, but the culmination of weeks of planning, digital surveillance, and calculated preparation. A quiet, deadly orchestration whose impact would forever change lives. CCTV footage revealed what the human eye could not immediately perceive. A meticulously executed sequence of movements, repeated pauses, and careful observation. Analysts traced Umar's journey from the bus stop to the park, noting patterns that suggested he was not merely arriving by chance, but monitoring the environment, evaluating risks, and confirming that conditions were perfect for his plan. Each frame became a clue, a silent witness capturing intent, timing, and methodical preparation. Investigators could see him adjusting his bag, glancing around, waiting for the precise moment. This footage, combined with phone GPS and timestamps, reconstructed a chilling prelude to the crime. A young woman unaware, a young man consumed by obsession, and a public park transformed into a stage for premeditated tragedy. It was an eerie reminder that technology, which often documents our everyday lives, can also silently testify to crimes that would otherwise go unseen. The digital trail was the most damning evidence of all. Investigators pieced together chat transcripts showing a progression of control and entitlement, online searches detailing sedatives and legal loopholes, and GPS data marking precise movements across Gujranwala. Each keystroke, each deleted file recovered, created a mosaic of premeditation, illustrating how obsession had moved from thought into action. Analysts emphasized the intentionality. Timestamps showed repeated pattern checking, route planning, and surveillance of Aisha's likely paths. Every seemingly innocent digital action was imbued with purpose, reflecting a mind calculating every contingency. The convergence of these details left no room for doubt. The crime was not spontaneous nor accidental. It was orchestrated with cold precision, a horrifying example of how obsession, when fused with modern technology, can translate virtual control into irreversible, real-world consequences. Forensic experts scrutinized every trace left behind by Umar's actions. Blood analysis, toxicology reports, and chemical residue were cross-referenced with digital data and witness statements. The sedative's rapid onset, combined with the absence of physical struggle, aligned perfectly with the reconstructed timeline, confirming that incapacitation had been deliberate. Specialists noted that even the smallest details, fingerprints on bottles, the angle of a dropped object, residue in a cup, formed an unbroken chain of evidence pointing to premeditation. Each discovery painted a narrative of meticulous planning and cold calculation, demonstrating a chilling intersection between digital obsession and real-world harm. In every corner of the laboratory, the crime was being rewritten in precise scientific terms. Not conjecture, not assumption, but irrefutable fact, and every observation brought investigators closer to revealing the full extent of Umar's intent. In the quiet, tension-filled interrogation room, investigators confronted Umar with the unrelenting weight of evidence. Every piece of digital data, each financial transaction, and the reconstructed timeline were presented systematically, leaving him no opportunity for evasion. Analysts noted subtle changes in his demeanor, the tightening of his jaw, the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. A young man slowly realizing that the virtual control he had cherished no longer offered protection. Question after question, detail after detail, unraveled the narrative he had tried to maintain, revealing the depth of planning, the obsession, and the cold logic behind his actions. The room was a crucible of truth, a place where silence, documentation, and relentless questioning forced the confrontation of choices that could not be undone. Each revelation brought him closer to the inevitable reality that actions born of obsession carry consequences measured in both evidence and morality. The aftermath of the crime extended beyond the digital and forensic evidence, reaching the hearts of those most affected. Aisha's family, once unaware of the silent escalation of obsession, now faced the devastating reality of loss. Their grief was profound, yet tempered by the knowledge that justice was unfolding. Every courtroom update, every new piece of evidence, became both confirmation and torment, reminding them that while the perpetrator could be held accountable, their daughter's absence was permanent. Their sorrow was quiet but piercing, a reflection of lives interrupted, innocence destroyed, and the stark human cost of obsession that had been left unchecked. It was a tragic testament to how virtual attachment, when twisted, can have consequences far beyond screens and messages, leaving irreversible marks on real lives. In the high-ceilinged courtroom, the law unfolded with deliberate gravity. Each exhibit, each testimony, meticulously built the narrative of premeditation and moral breach. Prosecutors presented toxicology reports, CCTV reconstructions, financial records, and digital communication patterns, each reinforcing the inevitability of consequence. Observers noted Umar's quiet demeanor, the absence of remorse, and the growing realization that the world he thought he controlled, the digital victories, the sense of entitlement, the obsessive narrative, had no bearing here. The courtroom became a theater of truth, where evidence spoke louder than emotion, and every word, chart, and timestamp drew a map from virtual obsession to irreversible reality. It was a chilling demonstration of how carefully calculated actions, when left unchecked, ultimately meet the unyielding weight of justice. The behavioral psychologist dissected the subtle but unmistakable patterns of Umar's mindset. Months of chat transcripts revealed a progression from casual affection to controlling demands, emotional manipulation, and a growing sense of entitlement. Each interaction, when analyzed in sequence, reflected not an impulsive reaction, but a mind systematically rationalizing control. The expert emphasized how digital obsession can warp perception, turning hesitation into betrayal and independence into provocation. The courtroom listened in a hush, absorbing the chilling implication. A young man's attachment had metastasized into moral detachment, shaping a premeditated act that blurred the line between virtual entitlement and real-world violence. Every carefully presented graph, timeline, and psychological interpretation left the narrative clear. Intent had been deliberate, calculated, and terrifyingly human. When the verdict was announced, silence fell like a weight across the courtroom. Umar Sheikh was found guilty of premeditated murder, with aggravating factors of poisoning, betrayal of trust, and calculated manipulation. The sentence, 100 years, was structured to reflect each element of planning and moral breach. Every listener in the courtroom absorbed the gravity of the decision. A century of accountability for actions that had begun as digital obsession and culminated in irreversible tragedy. Outside the court, media coverage exploded. Debates surged about online relationships, digital safety, and the influence of virtual worlds on young minds. Yet inside, the moral was absolute. Premeditation, manipulation, and obsession carry consequences measured not in clicks or wins, but in law, justice, and human lives forever altered. Umar Sheikh now faced the stark reality of confinement. The digital world that had once offered him validation, control, and identity was gone. No screens, no games, no ranks to conquer. Only the relentless passage of time in a cell designed for reflection and accountability. Each day in that sparse environment forced him to confront the irreversible consequences of his obsession and planning. Letters from family were rare, interactions with others cautious and wary, and every moment underscored the truth. Actions driven by entitlement and obsession leave traces not just in evidence, but in life itself. The century-long sentence was both punishment and stark reflection of the cost of moral detachment, a reality far harsher than any virtual defeat. The story of Umar Sheikh and Aisha Malik captured the nation's attention. News outlets dissected every detail, from forensic evidence to psychological analysis. Social media erupted with debate, hashtags trended, and experts weighed in on the dangers of digital obsession. Parents and educators used the case as a cautionary tale, warning young people about the perils of unmonitored online interactions. Beyond sensational headlines, the narrative highlighted the convergence of technology, human emotion, and morality, showing how seemingly small digital actions can escalate into irreversible tragedy. The public discourse became a mirror reflecting societal vulnerabilities, emphasizing vigilance, empathy, and awareness in a world increasingly mediated by screens. Psychological analysis revealed the mechanics of Umar's obsession. Patterns in messaging, response times, and online activity illustrated a progressive escalation from casual attachment to controlling fixation. Behavioral graphs demonstrated how he framed Aisha's independence as betrayal, rationalized manipulation as emotional justice, and internalized entitlement as moral right. Experts emphasized the danger of digital obsession when combined with emotional immaturity, how virtual reinforcement can distort real-world empathy and escalate to irreversible action. This analysis became critical for understanding premeditation, showing how months of online behavior provided a roadmap to the tragic confrontation. The evidence portrayed a chilling, methodical evolution from digital control to real-world crime, making the psychological dimension as tangible as any physical evidence. Even after justice was served, the human consequences endured. Aisha's family confronted a void that no verdict could fill. Grief, quiet but piercing, marked every day, a reminder of a life stolen, trust betrayed, and innocence lost. Their reflections extended beyond sorrow, becoming lessons for the community. To recognize warning signs, to understand the dangers of unchecked obsession, and to maintain vigilance in the digital age. While Umar faced confinement, the family faced permanence. A life interrupted, memories frozen, and a cautionary narrative that would ripple through society. Their mourning was a silent testament to the irreversibility of actions born from entitlement and obsession, a reflection of the delicate boundary between digital infatuation and real-world consequences. The story of Umar Sheikh and Aisha Malik serves as a stark reminder that actions driven by obsession, entitlement, and moral detachment leave permanent consequences. The digital world, once a playground of control and validation, became the prelude to irreversible tragedy. For society, the case became a cautionary tale. Screens cannot replace empathy, virtual victories cannot justify harm, and obsession can transform ordinary moments into life-altering events. The empty park bench, bathed in sunset, symbolizes the lives affected. A young woman lost, a young man confined, and a community forced to confront the harsh intersection of technology, human desire, and accountability. In the end, reality always prevails, and the lessons of this tragedy echo as a warning for generations. Obsession unchecked, even in digital spaces, can have consequences that no victory or explanation can ever undo.